Luna UST is still going on, still continuing its asymptotic approach to zero. And for those who are familiar, this coin, because of the way it's set up, is going towards zero and will continue to. But as we noted today, it is still being traded on a lot of exchanges. And, there are some very complicated, I think, ethical questions about that. We did see Binance this morning announce that they were going to suspend trading, or CZ announced for what turns out will only be a few hours. They're going to restart this afternoon. So I guess just to kind of lay out the stakes here, I have seen a lot of somewhat worrying chatter on Twitter about people thinking that because this has gone down 99%, it has to go up again. And that is not true. So I just want to make sure that that gets out there. There is no reason to expect a bounce in this asset. On the other hand, there are arguments for allowing people to continue to trade this. There are various discussions going on about people trying to revive the chain. I think that's very misguided, but I think there is a debate here. Will, what do you think?
No, I think you're spot on there. What goes up must come down, but what goes down does not necessarily have to go up. I think this is sunk into the ground forever. That's like far less than a penny, and probably the most important chart in crypto this year, maybe even in the last 2 years. I think that there's like some over 30,000 tokens at this point, and the trading question is definitely one a lot of exchanges have to grapple with, and a lot of consumer protectors have to grapple with as well. I'd include journalists in that group. What should be listed? What should consumers be able to buy? What should retail be able to buy? And I do sort of fall on the side of an exchange should be able to list whatever it wants. It is its own private business. Obviously, you should probably only go to exchanges that have your best interest in mind, though. So there's two edges to that sword. I do think in the case for Terra Luna, some people have some coins and they maybe have a hope of getting them out. And obviously, if they're going to sell them, they're selling it to someone else who is the greater fool in this situation. At the same time, though, like the liquidity is so low and the volume so low on this token that it almost doesn't matter at this point. Like, I think this question of like, should Terra Luna be listed doesn't matter. If the coin had like a little bit more juice in it at this point, like I think this question would be relevant. But right now, like if you're trading out of a Terra position or a Luna position, like you have nothing to trade into. There's cents, there's pennies. It's not going to make a difference. The transaction fee is going to be greater than what you're going to get on the other side. So if this had like even just a little bit more, if it was maybe 10 cents a token, then I think this conversation would really be important. Be like, oh, should Binance delist or should FTX delist? But right now, I don't see it as too important. Jen, I'm gonna throw it down to you and get your take.
Well, I have a question. So since the Terra blockchain halted, what happens when people trade this coin on the exchanges that are still listing it? Because isn't it nothing?
There's good intuition there. It definitely not much happens in terms of like settling on chain. So what can happen in some cases is some exchanges do hold some liquidity and they hold it in wallets or whatnot, but then you're just like basically trading on their book. And so there's like record keeping who has what token, but it can't be settled on chain. So the accounts can't move on the physical chain at that point. So FTX must have some sort of settlement system internally where they're keeping records of transactions between users and the order book itself. But there's definitely not tokens moving in between Terra and Luna at this point, or I don't know if they restarted it yet. But,
well, they either restarted or announced. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they paused it late last night. They paused it like late last night for the second time in like the preceding 24 hours, and then some hours later, I think after about 9 hours, they restarted the chain. So that was announced this morning that the chain is
back online, baby. Let's go.
Back online.
All right.
Back online.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that a little bit, it's too complicated to dive into, but they had to halt the chain because of the economics and the way that it works with the security. So, in this particular case, there's just built-in dynamics that drive this down towards nothing. And I just want to clarify that is significantly different from most other crypto projects. So, for example, we're not talking about the fact that like EOS is still trading. There are a lot of not that relevant projects that are still trading very widely. But those are different cases because there can still be value there. There is still community building those things, and really anything could happen. We could see a revival of EOS at any time, whatever. But this is a unique case where there is a particular dynamic that has destroyed all this value, and that needs to be acknowledged. Jen, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree with Will when I think exchanges, which are private businesses, should be able to list what they want to list. But I think we're going to see this whole Terra scenario play out at great length when it comes to regulators. And I think we're going to see a lot of the CEOs of these exchanges be called to committees and hearings, and we're going to hear those differing opinions. I mean, reading CZ's tweets, I don't remember if it was this morning or late last night. Everything just kind of is blurred together for me when it comes to this story. But I think reading his tweets, it shows us that there's going to be a greater discussion in the industry when it comes to consumer protection as we fall out of this story. And I think there's going to, I don't know if a lot is going to change, but definitely there's going to be a lot of discussion. Zach, did I see your head go up?
I saw Will. So down to him.
Yeah, just to David's point, I think there is some precedent for delisting coins just based on like how toxic that community has been. BSV notably has been delisted on many exchanges just because the community was very toxic, and a lot of exchanges didn't want to interact with that community at all. So that is definitely one area I could see this continue to happen, where people are so burnt out on Terra, they're so burnt out on the ecosystem and what caused a lot of people to lose a lot of savings, that they just delist this coin. And then on the other side of that, it's also like, does this coin bring value to your exchange? Well, people really aren't trading it at this point because there's no value in it. And to keep that order book open, just you have to have maintenance, especially if the chain's going on and offline. So I think those two reasons, you're going to see like more delistings. Though again, I am in the position like, do what you want with your company. But let's move over to Galaxy Digital. Oh, actually, David, one last thought.
Just make one last comment, which is that there is a built-in release valve in the system, right? I mean, I don't know if it's economically practical at this point, given the prices, but if you have these assets and they're not locked in an exchange, you can always go to a DEX. So if you're a crypto person who has accepted the risk of dealing with this extremely experimental thing, you should hopefully be the same person who has the knowledge and skills to go to a DEX and do what you want without having to, rely on an exchange. That's not necessarily the case, as we know and are about to discuss. But in theory, that's where the hardcore people should be doing their trading.